Hi, welcome to Spark. In this episode, we are going to be interviewing wild, wonderful local jazz musicians, guitarist Mike Mele and pianist Adria Smith. Stay tuned.
We're not cutting that.
Okay, yeah, no, we're not.
Yeah.
Not cutting that.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Spark. This episode, we are fortunate to have our friends with us, Adria Smith, a pianist, a composer, and a Grammy-nominated music educator, and Mike Mele, a jazz guitarist, teacher, and member of the Ken Clark Organ Trio.
We could nominate you for something now, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe as we go along, maybe
Best
you
husband
could
ever.
suggest. Oh, so nice.
Oh, that's
Well,
a secret.
They're married, so that's great. Yeah, so I was wondering, so Adrian, I'm gonna ask you this question first, and then Mike, you can get the same one. So, the show's about the creative spark and what you feel when
Love
you're, creating something. And so I wonder, you are lifelong musicians, really. When did that first happen to you that you felt like this feeling of like something more is happening than me just playing the piano? Like there was something that was happening while you were creating something.
That's such a great question. When I was 5, I wrote this song called "I Hate Bananas, I Love Bananas," and it cycled over and over and over again.
Yes.
Good song.
Balance, man.
Yeah. And to this day, I still hate bananas and love bananas, depending on the day. But my point is that, like, I think when I was in 8th grade, I heard Bill Evans, and it just hit me in the heart. And I knew that I really wanted to play jazz. I just had to do it. And I was playing piano and composing since I was age 5, but that's when it really hit my soul.
So, and how? Before we go to you, Mike, and you can't copy the answers.
It's not
Bring
going
up
to.
your own answers.
It's not going to. Yeah.
So how did that creative spark, name drop, boom? How did that evolve as you grew into becoming the musician that you are? Like when you felt that when you were 5, is it still the same feeling?
When I was a kid, people would ask me, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a musician or a magician." And I did throw magic shows. Yeah. This cute guy across the street showed up, but he busted me on my magic trick, so I didn't like him anymore.
No,
but
choice.
I did know I really wanted to be a musician or a musician, and a magician or a musician. And I do know that I'm kind of living the dream at some point, at this point, because I'm doing the musician thing, and music is kind of like magic. So
yeah. Yep. Yeah. Thanks. Right to you, Mike. So when was the first time, like, as a youngster or maybe older than that you felt like this, like, creative energy?
The first time I got I got interested in music just listening to my uncle's band playing my grandmother's basement.
Oh, wow, cool.
And so it was like in the early 70s, and so they're like rocking out Beatles tunes. You could feel it through the floor. So, oh, that's really cool. And then I got a Beatles album when I was like 9.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. It was exciting. The music was exciting. And so what was the question again?
It was just like, so when did you like first feel like your own, when you're creating your own music, like when did you first feel, because I've seen you improv, right? I've seen you go into your guitar and it seems like you kind of disappear. So when did you first
like
do that?
11 or so. That's interesting because I feel like, not saying like whatever, I'm an amazing improviser, but I've always, different people take to different things, and I always felt like improvising music felt fairly natural, even if it wasn't, maybe it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah.
Then I got the guitar, and sometimes I would just play, just like make stuff up, just like little scaly notes, or I would hear something and I would try to play along with it, or I'd go over to my aunt's house and she had like one of these Lowry organs, with the little drum machine and stuff. And
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
and I would be able to, I would sound out, I'm not, again, it's not that it was anything like amazing.
Well, I will have to add that now, watching you play, you have married a magician as well as a musician, because to watch you just take your, solo or something to a place where it just seems like you are removed from kind of what is happening.
Would you like to hear my first composition I ever did?
Yes! Oh my gosh, yes!
Oh, it's
it
like
might be so out of tune.
It's like
Okay.
I
So
love
that's
bananas,
gonna
I
make it
hate
even
bananas over and over and over
It's gonna
again.
make it better.
It's gonna be like that.
Okay, this was the first thing I ever composed. I think I was like 10. Here it goes.
Definitely better than I like bananas, I hate bananas. Like,
I don't know.
That definitely
We'll let the
there was
audience
a
figure it
no,
out.
pattern.
I mean, just like the
There
ending,
was a pattern.
Like,
There
that
was
was
a
so
pattern.
great. Nice, like.
I don't know how to
very
use the
awesome.
guitars.
Well, I'm sure it's not a good one, so that's good. Yeah, stay.
So what did you feel like as a kid when you were like, okay, I've composed something?
I
You
felt
know,
like
did
this
you feel
is
like this was the beginning of something?
Yeah.
And this is
I was like,
too.
wow,
So-
this is like I wrote a song. Look at that, like it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as dumb as it was, I just like, this
I
is
bet you knew a lot of people who
I've
couldn't
been
do
moved.
it.
Yes, yeah. And
Well, it's like not. It's just like not. I didn't have anything to lose or fear.
Yeah.
And there's other things like that. So I mean, I think that's how it kind of started. Other than took lessons and read the notes and
yeah,
play
do all that
Twinkle
stuff.
Twinkle, etc. But like, I was never like afraid to just like sort of explore things. So
Yeah.
I guess that's. So is that an answer?
It is
Good
an
question.
answer. It's a very good answer.
Even though-
It was an answer to the question you asked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's an answer.
There'll be
Yeah.
grades at the end.
Yeah.
A plus from Mike.
Yeah. We're keeping score.
I mean, I think for me, it's definitely about how creativity fills the soul, and how when you you both write, like when you go into that space, it's like it fills the soul. It makes you feel like, and I guess I'm speaking for myself at this point, it makes you feel free. I mean, there's this freedom about it. And it's like where dreams can happen. And it's very exciting. And, it's something that it's like we feel like it's a passion that we have to do. That's what I feel about creativity, I also feel like has a lot to do with collaboration.
Yeah.
What's it like when you hear other musicians playing something you've composed?
Oh my gosh, it's like a dream come true. Are you kidding me? Unless they hit the wrong note, and hey, that might not be their fault. It might be. So my point is that just having that come alive is very exciting for me.
Yeah.
But it is a process. You have to rehearse it, make sure it gets to the right feel, and the right meaning, and I have to make sure the chart's correct.
Yeah.
Myself.
Well, it's you. Do you
Right.
feel like that it's not so much the musicians, but it's you you're looking at, and you're like, oh my gosh, if they do it a different way than I feel it, then it's not gonna be.
Maybe, but I work with really amazing musicians. Like they're so good. Like this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm working with like amazing jazz musicians around here, around the North Shore, and they know what to do for the most part. Usually, when you give them a lead sheet, and so I'm very happy to hear my compositions come to life when I put the, my lead sheet in front of them. And they're my friends, so they help me too. And like I said, it's a process.
Well, I noticed too when you were talking about when Neil asked you the question about other people playing your music, and you're like, you rehearse it, but you also have to get the feel. And I think it's like, though that the composition, you're saying something, right? So people can like look at the notes and they can play those, but are they getting what you wrote, like the feeling behind?
Because
like the purpose of the piece.
Because music is a language, and that's a cliche.
Yeah.
However, it's true, like in a sense, like, and what do you want to relate, And some people don't know what they want to relate when we're improvising or composing, but sometimes we do have an intention, And for me, that intention is definitely just wanting to be in that free space and fulfill my soul, but it's also like peace. I want to put that out in the world.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of juggling balls.
Yeah.
What's going on in your heads for both of you when you're playing with a band and you've got your solo and now you're improvising? What's happening? One thing I like, if it's a song that you play a lot with the same people, is the solo going to be the same, or is it always going to be there? There's always going to be some different improvisation during it.
Sometimes one and sometimes the other. But most of the time, it's always going to be different. But that's a good question. That's a deep one because, especially with teaching other people, what's going on when you're doing something. I mean, as far as the first part, like there's some things that like I played with Ken, and we go in and we record it. We do a few takes, and I come up, eventually I take a. That's the thing about relating back to what you said about when people play to Adrian for their compositions. It just, I don't know if we're going backtracking too much, but like, the difference between, okay, like if I write something, and I think if Adrian writes something to be played, usually it's like a sheet with like a general sketch, and the other people have to come up with some specifics. Whereas I play with some people, like every single note is play this rhythm, and that's and that can be rewarding in its own way too. But sometimes I'll come up with a solo, and I think you hear this in rock bands too. Like you'll hear like the solo on the record, and then sometimes you hear the exact same solo playing. Sometimes you hear a solo that doesn't have anything to do with the original solo, and sometimes you hear one where you hear like some of that solo in the song. So sometimes like that one I just mentioned, sometimes it's that, and then sometimes it's just a complete improvisation.
Does it change from night to night depending on how you're feeling? Sure. Or yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, again, there's some songs that play like, okay, I'm gonna, it's just, I like, if I thought what I came up with was good, and I've listened to the recording over and over because I'm an egomaniac, and I'm just like,
I don't know if that's it.
Loop my solo. Okay, you sounded great. How did I sound? But like,
what were they saying about me?
Yeah. And that sticks in my head. It's like, yeah, that was pretty good. So I mean, it's just what I naturally want to go for.
Yeah.
But what's in your head when you're improvising? That's a tough one too, because it's, especially if it's in jazz. Like you can't. I do this with students all the time. You can't just say, okay, here's a song. It's really complicated chord structure. Just play anything, and okay, playing, I don't, without any training or knowledge, depending on the person's aptitude, probably not going to go well. And you say, okay, well, here's the structure, and here's what key it's in, and here are the scales, and then you hear scales, just here's some scales, and that's not a solo either.
Yeah.
And I think about that when I'm playing, because I teach a lot now, and sometimes I try to, if I think about too much, then it doesn't go well, because I'm thinking too much. But it's not like I'm not thinking. It's not like I'm just like, use the force and just whatever happens.
Something's coming through me.
Definitely have to use the force.
But it is like, it's kind of like when you're before the era of GPSs, right? And you move to a new house, right? And you get the directions and say, okay, well, I'm going to go up Route 1, and then there's a light Slime Brook Road, and I take a right, and then there's going to be the big farm stand on the left, and then I'm going to go a few, and then you're thinking that when you're going there, because then you go later.
That's not where we live,
No,
though.
Yo, but
you
that's
can edit those
directions to where
parts.
we live, just so you know.
I'm just- so that,
All
so
party
that,
here!
Doors unlocked.
but later, you just like you're driving home and you're thinking about whatever. We're gonna do this podcast tonight. You know, we're gonna go out later. Or we're gonna have kids, whatever. You can almost like be in a completely different place because you don't have to think. Oh, I have to go 1/2 mile and then take a right after the whatever color.
Yeah, you have like benchmarks, I guess, or
it has to be
landmarks,
so internal that you know it so well that you don't have to think about it. But in
Love
order
that.
to
Yes.
Love that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
It's
sense.
like how like jazz musicians are kind of like writers because you're writers, and I'm wondering if there's any common creativity when it comes to that, because I'm sure there is. So that's my curiosity.
in the processing.
Yeah.
It's so different, I would imagine, because like it's. Well, you can improvise like Jack Kerouac. That's like improvisation.
It's different, but I
stand,
think
right?
like
But-
you have like. Yeah, it's a good question, and we keep on asking people these questions, but it hasn't been asked of us. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, so now-
but I think it's like,
Hey, wait a
listen,
minute
you.
here.
Who's asking the questions?
No,
your
I'm
business.
genuinely. No, I think like the
Cute.
muscle, right? Like you're saying, you have to kind of have these things in place. But like there's sometimes, and it doesn't happen every time, but there's sometimes when I'm writing, and I know this has happened to you and probably every writer, creative person out there, where you're in it and things come out of you that that you didn't plan for, that you didn't even think about, and you're like, wow, that character just said that, and it really didn't. It
Yes.
obviously comes from your
Sure.
mind, but it's like it surprised you,
Right.
and like that is the biggest high in the world,
Sure.
I think,
Yeah,
to like
yeah,
just
yeah,
and it
yeah.
feels like
Yeah.
holy, and it feels like right, and it feels like
Mm.
this will not be edited.
Yes.
Whatever is just pouring out of me right now, and it's like most of the time I might
Mm.
start like writing something that I'm like angry about or something like that,
Mm.
and somehow if the process is working, somehow it will come out and there will be a light, a more soulful, hopeful light
Exactly.
that I didn't want
In
in the beginning of the poem.
Right.
Yeah,
It goes
you know.
someplace you didn't expect it to.
I did, yeah,
And that
That's
is
another thing.
one of
yeah.
the beauties of creativity.
yeah. So I don't know. What's
Yeah,
your
well,
answer to that?
Writing, especially writing poetry, we're not writing sonnets, so there's no rules. Page is empty, so it's all improvisation. Because,
Yeah, right.
you know,
I
Exactly.
can understand that.
but on stage, sometimes I've had a poem, I've got it right in front of me, all typed out and everything, and I'll change the words sometimes just because
Oh.
something happens.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
I
not
think
all
that's-
the words, and I'm not like doing like a 37
Improv.
word solo that's gonna go, like
Right.
you guys will have these big long solos, but there will be changes when you're reading. Just something happens.
'Cause you feel it
feel
different.
So
something.
there's kind of degrees.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you might improvise a little.
Yeah,
Some people like improv comedy, for example. They're just like improving.
yeah,
Yeah.
love
That always
stuff.
amazes me.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
and that's a little different than
Shout out
what
to
than
all
writing,
those.
but like an
Yeah.
extreme.
yeah.
Yeah.
Reminds
It
me
is.
of Pat Martino had a great. I saw a video of him teaching someone, and the guy was asking questions, and he asked him if he could plan what he was going to play, and he said, "You can't plan for jazz, but you can prepare. You
Yeah.
can prepare.
Yep.
And
for
of
the
course,
moment.
the obvious question is, well, how do you prepare?
Right? You practice your scales and your
Techniques
solo
and all
transcription and your techniques and
Yeah.
your patterns and all
Your
that.
tricks.
You do all that stuff so you don't do it when you're actually performing or creating. You do all that stuff so that can come out. But if that's the sort of middle ground that happens when someone's learning, is that they're like, okay, well, now I've learned all this stuff, and they're just and that's a stage almost you have to go through.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
one.
tough
I
stage.
grapple with that, showing other people how to do it, because everyone is different. Some people it's just boom, it's natural, and then other people they struggle and then they get it and then they can play the scale at the right time,
Yeah.
but it's not music necessarily.
That
so,
no.
and
right.
getting then we have to say, I have to tell people to work on all this stuff and then say, okay, now forget it.
Yeah.
Forget
Know the
it.
rules
Yeah.
and then break
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Know the rules inherently, so you don't have to think about them.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
It has to be internal.
Yeah, it has to be internal. It's just like reading words from a poem or performing the words
Yeah.
too. You know.
You know, it just reminded me of our son Henry. He's a musician who was a trombone player in high school, and he studied with Squanch. Trombone
Oh,
Squanch,
shout
yeah.
out to
Shout out to Sponge.
What?
And I remember him telling us
What?
that he played Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech.
Yeah.
You know, just to get him to the idea of like you need a cadence, you need this and to get him like an idea about like how his solo is gonna flow, how this is just to give him an idea of like it's all music and it's all gotta go start one place, go someplace else and I remember Henry. I was impressed by that, and he impressed it on me. How much, but you can
the cadence of the speaking in the
Yeah.
words. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get that. I get that. That's really cool.
but
That reminds me of Laurence Olivier.
Do tell.
Oh.
thank you. That's it.
Show's over.
I hope you can edit this.
No, bring it on.
Wine and
No,
I know.
I don't know what to tell you.
Really blow.
So I like history just as a hobby.
Yep.
Like not
Yep.
I'm like an expert on anything, but I used to watch this show, English BBC, World at War, The World at War, and it was narrated by Laurence Olivier.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! And I would sometimes just listen to his voice and the cadence with which he told the story, and it was just it was musical.
Yeah.
Now that's like.
Yeah, he's kind of a top-notch guy.
Well, yeah, as an actor,
but it's
Yeah.
all performance.
Yeah.
It's all performance.
And it was so
and it
beautiful
enhances.
just to listen to the sound of his voice and the pacing and the emphasis and I was like, yeah, there's crossover.
I'm wondering about your students. So you both are very accomplished musicians as well as teachers. How do you use your creativity to help kids find their voice, and how do you know when they found it?
Oh, that's so easy. I mean, music is a passion. And it protrudes. Like people can feel it when you're into it, and they will give it right back to you. Whatever energy you give out there, it'll come back to you. And I mean, the kids will let you know if they're passionate about music, and you're gonna put that out there. So that's not necessarily a difficult problem at all. It's just a matter of what capacity and how deep are you gonna go,
Okay.
And sometimes within the teaching aspect, you have certain schedules or certain confines where you're trying to figure out how to relay that information. And I feel like it can be very easy to just tell them how passionate you are, because it's just an energy that it'll come across very naturally, and they will, and they're going to be into it. And even the kids who say they're not into it, they will be into it too.
Yeah. Especially if they say they're not. If you took the time to say you're not, you're
I mean, I had
something.
this one student okay, so songwriting unit, everybody's like, oh, okay, we're doing this. And one of the kids told me in her reflection, I am not doing this. I do not sing. I am not a songwriter. Then there was a choice project. Guess who chose to do the songwriting? You know what I mean? So it really, you just have to put it out there and make sure that you spread the word.
Yep. Mike, how about you?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm just wondering how you use maybe your passion or your creativity to help students find their own voice in whatever music they're doing. Or maybe an investment, or
I mean, just and some people just are not going to be as
Right.
passionate about that, and that's okay. I mean, sincerity. I really care. I really,
Wait, what is that
I really,
word you
I really,
use?
I really,
I haven't
I
seen
really
it.
want you to succeed. Your success is my. I want to show you how excited I am for
Yeah.
your progress, and I want to know what you like,
Mm-hmm.
and show you so. That's about. I don't know. That's about the best. I think her
Yeah.
answer was a lot better than mine. But like,
Well, we
I
are
don't think so. I don't know about that.
grading
Yeah,
the
yeah,
answers.
Yeah, my
And we
answers
will take
are
a
obvious.
poll.
I'll take,
Everybody, mine's
I'll
the
take-
best.
can I
get
get an
Yes.
incomplete? Can I get an
Yes,
Can I get an incomplete?
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, we will ask our viewers to judge.
He's gonna
score. Like
But,
sometimes
yeah,
if I'm writing, like I was talking earlier about writing poetry, that it just like depends, and it's just like sometimes can come on you where you're just like this just got written and I was a witness.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like really spacey and weird, but it's like I was
that's
a witness
No.
to
spot on.
this.
Beautiful.
Spot on.
and it was
Yeah.
effortless.
You're watching it happen.
When you know it's something
Out of
that
body
you,
almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
out of body,
Is-
and it's holy. It's
Yeah.
just like
you
I
know
get it.
that's something that
Precious.
you're gonna
I hear you.
keep.
oh
You know, because there's the editing process, and so when you know it's something you're gonna keep, then that's when you're like, this is it. And then when you see it like being performed or read or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's when it's like so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when your soul is
Yeah.
shining.
Yep. Yeah.
How does I was just thinking, the stage thing has its own things. Sometimes it's a great night, there's a attentive crowd, and it probably feels great. Other nights, there's 3 or 4 people there, and you're like, oh, geez, I got to get up in the morning and go to my other job, and I'd really like this to be over. But like, how does in order to get to the stage, you got to be good, you got to be practicing, you got to be composed, you got to be doing all the preparations you said earlier. How does that work? When you're home and you've got to practice and stuff like that, how do you get motivated to do that?
It's a good question. I would ask the same to you. I mean, like, how?
But it's our show.
Hey.
You're the guest.
I'm the guest. Jazz hands.
Yeah, I'll answer later, but that's
Yeah, no, but I do want to hear your
Yeah.
opinions as well, because I was excited about coming here with being with Mike and then being with writers. So, that's a good question. I feel like I'd have to refer to Mike at this point.
Go, Mike.
What do you practicing?
Yeah, how do
That's
you
the
get
question.
motivated to do that? I know you said, I remember you saying one time that like when you were a kid, you practice all the time.
Yeah.
And you were just like, a lot of times parents have to tell their kids not to, to practice,
Right.
We're watching this instrument. And you were like, I never needed to be told to practice. I was always practicing.
Yeah.
Is it the same now or?
No, but there was a drive then, and there's always drive, and there's still some drive. There's still a good amount of drive for that. Like some of it's ego driven.
Yeah, you want to be
You
good.
want to be good. You want to be good. I want to be able to do this. And
In a good
And
sense.
that's a very
And-
good
and the,
sense of
really
ego.
good
That's
sense
not.
of
I can remember
Right,
lots
that's-
of times,
yes,
like
you're getting
in,
paid, it's
in
your
college years, where I'd be playing a gig and I wouldn't be happy about how I played, and that would be a motivator. And as far as now, performances are a great motivator. Now that life is chock full of more busyness and activities,
Yes,
something's
thank
coming
God.
up. I want to sound good on this thing.
Here's to
I'm going to do that. But then
playing
there's-
out.
But then
Yes.
there's that other aspect of practicing for the sake of practicing. That was the thing when I was a kid. When we were kids, all I'm not practicing because I practice because I need to learn this, and it's just it's inspiration too. Oh, I heard that thing. That's amazing. I want to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you then, well, how are you going to be able to do that? Well,
Yeah.
go home and work on it.
Step at a time. One
Yeah,
step at a
it's
time.
being like energized by the excitement of people of wanting to be able to do something,
Yeah.
and create
Yeah.
something.
And exactly, it's like intrinsically, I would say I want to just go to the piano and play, because that's where I feel free, and that's where I want to express myself, and I have all of these musical ideas, and I really want to just like paint them out. And so that is something that continually motivates me. I'll wake up in the morning, maybe tired, but I'm in the shower and I think of a certain song, or I'm thinking of a certain song that I'm composing, and I just can't wait to do that.
Yeah.
And that's like riveting. It makes me feel alive. And so that's the thing that really, and it's crazy. I think about it, I'm like, why am I even like excited about this? And I'm like, I'm tired. Why am I? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just something bigger. It's like something that ignites you.
Yeah.
That has to do with not just passion, but it has to do with like this overall, worldly being of like even finding like a way closer to God in a sense.
Yeah. Yep. I hear that. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
It's the somehow the removal of yourself when you're doing something is just like
doing it for
unbelievable.
that's
For
it.
overthinkers, like I'm an overthinker, and if I'm doing something that I'm not thinking about, and then it happens, I'm like
doing it for the sake
Wow.
of the thing that you're trying to do. I mean,
beyond
Because
even my
there's-
effort.
we were talking about like, doing like as a musician, doing like certain things that you get paid for and
Yeah.
private functions and things like that, and you have to learn certain things, and you do that because you're getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, you better learn this and do
Yep.
well, and that's good too.
Yep.
You learn things from everything you do, but like then sometimes where I'm just like I'm gonna play with some people. I would joke like ever since I was a kid, the bands that rehearsed the most and I had to work the hardest to be able to play the material did the fewest amount of performances for the least amount of money.
Yeah.
There's one band I play
man.
with. I play with this guy, Jeremy Parker. It's Organ in Orbit,
Great
it's,
band.
and he
Great
composes
research.
everything,
Ah.
and everything's written out, and he's really
Yes.
very, very intelligent,
Great
and,
band.
and he's a great composer. And I'll work hard to be able to play his material for like 3 gigs a year that don't pay that well, maybe.
Yeah.
So
It's
why?
great music.
Why am I doing
So
that?
why?
I mean, I guess
Great
because
music.
that's
Oh my
exciting.
gosh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why are
Yeah.
you? Is it because of
It's
the quality of
exciting.
the material?
It's,
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like I feel like
He's
oh,
arranging
you know,
like through
this-
composed
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Through composed. That means
Yeah.
like not
Yeah.
just a lead sheet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the the feel
Sounds
the
great.
the feeling of it. I hate to use that word, integrity of it. It's not.
No, it is
but
the
like
integrity.
the integrity.
So
of,
how do
yeah.
you feel that? Because we do pretty much solo work. We write at we write at our desk or whatever, and then you bring it out and you're performing by yourself. So when you are feeling that, you have to imagine that other people in the band are feeling these things too. How does that all work?
Well, that's a great question because you're saying solo stuff, and I like doing solo stuff because it's like, oh, mine, and like,
Yeah.
that's great. It's my own little like secret.
Your decisions
And my emotional, being put out in the world. But I think, improvisation, creativity, it comes with collaboration. So do you collaborate like with your writing?
We have a little bit, but we don't a lot. It's a high. It's I think I find it a hard thing to do because you've got and I suppose it's a
With
hard.
writing, I would imagine.
Yeah,
a lot of people do it.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we've
it's
done like a
interesting.
few pieces together, but just barely a few. But what we do for each other, and I'm just like stealing your answer because it's probably we feel the same, is we are honest critics with each other.
I love that.
So I really like if I write something and I'm not sure because maybe it just like came out and I'm like, does this really match this? Do I need to cut this? And if I send it to Neil and he's like, yeah, I'm like, awesome. Or if he's like, no, you are horrible.
You are not a writer.
Wrong, you are not a writer. No, he'll say, I'm not quite sure about this line and I
Right.
don't understand,
Oh,
like I didn't
good.
feel
Like
it, but you're on to something, keep going. So we are very
All right.
honest with each other. We
Yeah.
don't just go, I like it, that's good. We really want to work on whatever the piece is to make that piece the best it can
I
be.
love that answer. I feel like the
Yeah.
creativity can be a lot of collaboration. And for a lot of us, including myself, it's like you kind of, sometimes you want that full control. I want this like
yeah, always.
full control. Like this is my composition. But when it comes to, and I realized this through my thesis, when it comes to this, it's like a lot of the times it does have to do with collaboration, creativity, you know, and so that you have to embrace. And I'm saying that to myself, and I'm saying that to everybody. And at the same time, it also feels like, oh man, I got to do that. I have to work on that. But you know, like for example, we have a gig coming up, and we're gonna have to.
Where? Tell
the
everyone.
Essex Shipbuilding Museum.
Oh yeah. When is it?
It's November. It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
Okay, so it's not
the
the third.
9th,
it's
I
the third is a
believe.
Friday. I
Oh,
think
the
it's
9th.
Yeah.
It's November 9th.
Yeah, November 9th.
It's just a little.
We're
It's
not
like
here.
yeah. Where are you?
We're going to the Berkshires.
Oh, very
Oh, nice. Berkshire.
Yeah.
I love the
I love the
Berkshires.
Berkshires.
The Berkshires.
And then we do.
Oh, that's cool. So you
We
play
don't do a
together,
lot of-
but
yeah,
you've
we-
done it before.
We've
Yeah,
done
but not
gigs
all the
together
time.
before, but she has like her band, and
Yeah, and he has his.
I
We both have
sometimes
different
do
bands.
gigs that are like trio gigs, but I'm usually like playing just with other people who have their own bands.
Yeah.
Right, so it's
So-
very different. But we did actually, one time we did compose a song together,
A couple.
and so maybe we'll do that on the.
Well, maybe that's something we can record for the second show, which is performance
yeah.
pieces.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
How I'm going to say easy rather than say easy or difficult is that composing together?
It only comes naturally, but we have to set it up. Like we have to be like, okay, let's play, and that's the hard part. Is like trying to be like, let's go, and then it just comes naturally.
I think that you drive that more, you know, so as far as working together, like you'll come up and say, hey, come on, like let's play this together. Okay, well, how about this? We'll play this together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play well with others.
Yes, he does. He
That'll
plays
be
well with
awesome.
everybody.
I got all
He's
A's
an
in kindergarten, even
amazing,
penmanship,
like
but
an
then it does not play
amazing
well.
player. And so
I can change that.
No, it's, I mean, but you know.
Yeah, she says A.
I can change that. I can change that grade easily.
It's not hard for that reason, for the amount of times that it's actually happened. It's you know, you usually come up with an idea and then we collaborate from there.
Well, yeah.
So
I mean, I
that's-
have a degree in composition, but you're like an amazing technical player, and you are this guy.
Oh, look at the sweetness. Look at that sweetness.
PG over here.
Oh, kids, there's love right there. Do you have any more questions? Because I think
Just one last thing, I would just say, ask like when you're playing with great musicians, that must be.
which they are as well.
Yes,
Gonna have.
but because we've talked about like you're playing wedding gigs or you're playing different all these things, but then when you get into that situation where you're playing with great musicians and say somebody else does this fantastic solo, that has to affect what you guys are doing. When so that you're just like you must, and that sort of emotion must translate into your playing.
I would say so, yeah. It usually makes me really excited to be part of it.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
wow, listen to that, oh my God, I can't believe I'm playing with these guys. That must be pretty good too.
Do you feel like
I literally would I mean it feel and again it's not money, it's not recognition, it's just that was like one for the books. That solo was like that guy took.
Yep.
And do you feel like, oh yeah? Well, that's
I still want to step up to the plate and like come up with maybe not quite that, but at least like, oh, let me I better
raise
be on
the
my
bar.
game. I like
Yes.
trying to be on my game. Versus, and then there's and that has, and again, that context, right? If it's like a little concert performance, oh great. If it's in a place where no one even knows that person had, I mean, it's still great, but it's it's not the same if it's being really ignored and it was like I was like seeing God at that moment that the person played that song.
It was just
Well, one thing's for sure, if you hear anything Mike Mealy plays, it's incredibly amazing.
Wait,
And, like,
composition.
Is there a name of it?
No, but seriously,
Wow,
you're
it feels
absolutely
godlike.
brilliant.
It really does
like-
feel like, it feels
That's just pure inspiration.
just
You
came up
can't,
with that.
Come on,
you can't write, you
like,
can't teach that.
That's
no,
right.
I think I taught him that. I have a composing degree. But seriously, like,
You cannot be taught.
I did feel like I was out of my body, like
something-
running,
something
like
was
running
out, yeah,
somewhere.
right.
sort of
Like,
chanting
running
session over
somewhere.
here.
All right,
So,
I have
um,
another question. Okay, so we've been talking about like this creative process, like, you know, oh wow, this is surprising coming out of me. Have you ever been on stage doing some kind of solo and then kind of like sort of like waking up going, okay, where are we at right now?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, all the
Oh,
time. All
man.
the time.
I'd like to say
All the
Really?
time.
Go.
Yes.
Take us all this way to get to this, which is the
Tell us.
I call it the middle of the road.
Okay.
Right. So someone playing somewhere, someone says, let's play this tune. I kind of know this tune. I think I know this tune. But here's a chart just in case you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's the chart. And I'm playing, and I'm like, all of a sudden, you know, I'm playing, you know, wow. I can't believe I know this tune as well as I know it. I'm pretty good. That this tune has really complicated chords in it, and I'm like playing a good solo.
Yep.
All of a sudden,
All of a
clam,
sudden.
clam, 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 clam. Wait, what measure am I on? Clam, clam, clam. Wait, where? Clam, 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 clam.
Clam, clam, clam.
That's an old
That hardly
music term.
ever
Yes.
happens, by the way, to like music.
No,
So, but
I-
it was
no.
something I realized
The
right
audience
away is
would
that
just
you
say,
either have
no.
to commit to,
Hardly
you're either
ever
going to play
happens.
it
Never.
by memory or you're going to play it like you don't know it.
Yeah.
Because if you play it in the middle of the road, you're going to get stuck. And then, you know, the minute you start thinking, so I could play like something I don't know looking at it and play like an acceptable, something musically acceptable by like, oh, this chord, okay, here I am.
I'm
But
sure
like
I
if I'm like playing along and I'm like, wow, this is cool. What measure am I on?
Oh no.
Done.
Well, for me,
Yeah.
like
Done.
I'll go
Yeah.
for it. It's all improvisation. I'll close my eyes. I'll go for it, and I might
Well,
get
that's
it wrong.
then
No.
you're not in the middle of the road. Then you're on the right side. You're on
Nope,
one
because
side or the
I'm
other.
over here, up here in the upper register, trying to do
We were just
something.
playing, and I remember not too long I was playing
Doesn't
like a
notice
Herbie
that.
Hancock song, Dolphin Dance. This was more recently after I had kind of learned that lesson, and I realized, but it occurred to me, wow, this is a complex tune. I looked at the chords for a minute, and I was like, no, because then you're going to go to the other place. I'm going to go to the place where I'm like, you know, and then it's like I'm
Frightened or
stuck.
something? Yeah.
Well, no, where I'm like, yeah, frightened maybe, but like concentrating on what
Missing
it, taking it, coming from a different perspective on it
Yeah.
versus just like, you know, so yeah. What was the question again?
I don't know if she has to know. No. I was asking, so I guess I know what you're saying. I meant like, so you're talking about like, oh, you're in it and then you kind of lose your spot, but I mean like when you're improving and you're so deep into it
Yeah.
that you're still getting everything right, but you're kind of like, where did I go? But I'm back now. Like you're fully in control,
What's
but
different?
sort of not, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's
Or
really
do-
like you're in a dream state. It's kind
Yes.
of like you're out of the world.
Yeah. That's
And
kind of the
It's like
The
this
answer.
place where
Yes.
you go,
that's, yeah.
where it's like you're safe and there's freedom, and it's like a different planet where you can just like blossom, and then you breathe, and it's just the space, and it's magical, and then you come back to it, and I mean it is quite amazing, absolutely, and except for if you hit a wrong note, and then you're like, oh,
And you
hi.
wake up a
And
little
then you
bit.
pretend, shh, I didn't do that. But nobody knows it, except for the musicians in the band who hear you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I notice, I love when I'm watching bands and the improvisation or the solos inspire other people in the band. They're
Yes,
like, whoa,
yes,
that's a new
true,
one,
that's
you
true.
know, like that.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing.
It takes
That's the
all these
coolest thing.
turns, and it's
So
very
we're
cool.
going to come back again with the next show with Adria and Mike in performance pieces and also from their own workspace where we will check them out. So stay tuned, right? Did you want to
Yeah, thank you very
have
much.
any?
I just appreciate you carrying, Mike, and thank you for this episode on creativity.
Yeah, subscribe and share. Come on now.
See you next time.
Yes.